Thank you very much for coming. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining this. Seems to be very interesting panel about the matrix. So as was said, like about the famous movie. So different perspectives of people working in big organizations as well as startups, CDMOs, as well as on M&A advisory transaction side. So as we all know, this biotech sector is very much complex. So very possibly no one can really survive just working very much alone. So not even big pharma can stay on top without working with innovative startups or without the support of transactional guys. So I would like just to start with a short introduction of everyone. If you could just briefly tell a little bit to the audience about your experience and which part of this so-called matrix of our biotech sector you are coming from. Charles.
Thank you. So good morning, good afternoon. It's I gotta say, coming from, well, today from London, but from, let's say, some global markets where we operate as Clairfield in 30 countries, visiting Poland, as I do very often now, it's quite remarkable and fantastic and uplifting to see the remarkable technologies that are being developed here. It's also personally satisfying as I have Polish roots. And as I look at the stands in this conference, which is just a tiny part of what's going on, it's remarkable. So, formal introduction, I'm the senior partner with Clairfield International, representing Clairfield in a number of the offices. I'm here with my partner in Poland, Peter Hudy, who's in our Warsaw office. And we, I made the transition to bioscience from tech, as many people have in their careers, and I really feel very excited about that. I think tech, bioscience is the new tech now. You guys and gals are in the future. You are the future, and tech is beginning to be saturated. So looking forward very much to speaking a little bit more today. That's my introduction.
Dominik, Lipka, I'm working Syvento. We are CDMO plus company. Why plus? I will try to maybe explain later. We work and support our partners, our customer in the development of the RNA-based therapies. So we are like in this matrix, very close to the biotech startup, because most of our partners and our customers are biotech startup from one hand, but we also collaborate with big pharma, because we also provide some of the solutions to the big pharma. I'm very happy that I'm here and I can talk today about this very complicated matrix of biotech industry. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone, my name is Michał, Szymanik, and I represent Adamet Pharma company. It is, I'm not in typical situation because I represent big company, and some of you maybe think about Adamet as a Polish big pharma. However, we are not big pharma. We hire about 3,000 people. However, new drug discovery that I represent, there are only 35 people, so we are quite a small group. However, we work on new molecules. And regarding me, I'm in Adamet for 18 years. I joined after PhD studies and been a scientist, then head of research department. Now I'm responsible for collaboration. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dawid Ignatowicz. I'm coming from northern Poland. I'm representing Polpharma. Perhaps most of you recognize Polpharma from the drugs we're delivering to pharmacies, and approximately half of drugs in the hospitals are coming also from Polpharma. But perhaps not every one of you know that we are also supplying drug substances, the essence, the compounds that actually make the effect. Worldwide, since decades, to let's say 1600s, over 60 countries over 6 continents, And in particular, since 2 decades, we are supporting biotechs here in Poland, being very proud that we are supporting 2 biotechs developing new clinical assets here in Poland. But not only, we work with various companies across the ocean, both on the west and east coast of US, also some European biotechs, serving them in clinical supplies, CMC, but we also provide the US a commercial new chemical entity. Personally, I'm biotechnologist, chemist, or chemical engineer by training, 17 years at Polpharma with, let's say, R&D, manufacturing, tech transfers, a little bit of building supply chains, quality oversight of supplier, and I'm trying to apply this cross-functional technical background in my recent role, which last couple of years is business development, is trying to convince biotechs from the location I mentioned to trust us, to trust our scientists, engineers, and provide their clinical assets in our, let's say, care to allow them way to clinic, launch, validation, and hopefully successful commercial manufacturing. I'm pleasure to be here today.
Thank you, Łukasz.
Yes, hello, Łukasz Zybaczyński. I'm here as a founder and the CEO of BioResearch Pharma. But probably deep inside, I am also a big pharma person because I've spent most of my career with Eli Lilly and Merck. But also a surgeon and a medical doctor somewhere deep inside. So this is what's driving my purpose of my life. So the higher purpose was always related to helping people. Today, this matrix that we're supposed to discuss is actually deeply embedded in my brain because it's crossing lines between thinking big pharma, thinking about the needs of the biotech company. So I'm looking forward to talking to everybody.
Thank you, guys. So as you can see, even our guests are kind of matrix. So even if Adamet, small company, 3,000 people, still the drug discovery part is only 35. So it's a kind of a startup. So or as Łukasz said, kind of part of the brain is medical doctor, part of the brain is big pharma, and part of the brain is a startup founder. So it's a kind of a matrix. So guys, I would like to introduce you to a discussion about who is now really more important in this big world of biotech innovations. Is it the startup environment, the startup space, which is the startup founders, the people with speed, with flexibility, with very quick decision making, but very often lack of money, or really big pharma with big pockets, and but on the other side, as we all know, a little bit slow, much slower than the startup environment, and somewhere in the middle, CDMO companies, the service providers who are very often taking over some part of the drug discovery process. So what do you think, if we can just open up very open free discussion about who is really now more important in this big world of biotech innovations?
Well, I'd like to tell a 1-minute story which shows that both the startup and the big pharma are critically important. We were very pleased as Clairfield International to do a flagship transaction here in Poland, which many of you will have heard of, the sale of Curiosity Diagnostics, the PCR technology owned by Scope Fluidics, a Warsaw company, the sale to Biorad for $100 million in cash, and then 70 million in program of milestone-based contingent payments. Now, which was more important, that Scope Fluidics developed this fantastic new technology, one of hundreds and hundreds of things going on in labs and things around Poland, and had the creativity and the energy and the flexibility to do it, or Biorad, the giant American corporation, who then paid 100 million plus contingent 70 million to bite off them, who are going to now make that one of the leading PCR diagnostic machines in the world. I mean, that's the only reason they pay so much for it. And the answer is, yeah, both are absolutely critical.
I also share that opinion. The question is tricky. Who is more important? I think it's more about understanding what's the role of each one in the ecosystem and how each one is contributing. From our humble perspective, someone who is a little bit behind the innovation as a manufacturing company, but working with both small to medium, let's say tens of people, hundreds of people, biotechs, but also providing top 10 companies, we see they are very much different. I think the value of biotechs, which I'm very much excited, let's say, being with you and listening to you over those last 2 days, it's being brave to do things that big pharma, given the size, given the structure, sometimes cannot allow themselves to move on, to really go in the front of the innovation, yeah, and having this appetite to go for and be ready to sometimes to fail, yeah, learn and start something new. And at the same time, big pharmas are giving the market access penetration muscles to, let's say, to bring the assets to make sure they are commercialized and finally the patients globally can have the access to the treatment, yeah, which sometimes is beyond the capabilities of biotechs.
But let's face it, you know, innovation is originating by the small companies. In the approach that you are now giving, also the BioResearch example, the truck driver that drives the medicine to the pharmacy is also important then. You know, let's face it, innovation starts at those small companies. Big pharma buys in those innovations because they are not capable of doing it themselves.
Yeah, that's probably a very good point. And maybe Łukasz, you have this perspective of spending many years with big pharma and now building your own innovative novel biotech technology company. So how do you see it from two different angles right now?
Yeah, if I think who is more important, big pharma or biotech, I think the patients are most important. So
Very, very good point. Yeah.
so that would be my answer. Well, I to a certain extent I agree. The major difference is that the biotech company starts around the idea. So the flow is that first there is a brilliant mind after a hard day's work that comes with an idea, gets into the bath and says, Eureka. And then the structure starts. In big pharma, it's opposite. We have the structure, we have the skills surrounded by the structures, and then we are trying to force our existing structure to come with innovation. And we even believe that if we pour enough money and put all these people, then we'll eventually come up with the brilliant innovations. Actually, they do. Don't make the mistake. If you think there are no ideas in big pharma, you are making a major mistake. There are multiple hundreds of ideas being tested, financed, and developed as we sit here in all the labs of the major companies. Let's not make mistakes. And it's vitally important for biotech for one reason. Because our biotech idea and product must be better than the best idea generated inside of the big pharma. Otherwise, they will not be interested because it has less value. And you know, the value mathematically is the perception about the price minus the perception about the benefits. So if the perception about the benefits is less than the perception about the price, there is no value. And we have to be better than their best idea. and we don't know these ideas. So it's like, you know, a wonderful fountain pen. With whom are you competing? If you manufacture a pen, beautiful pen, with whom you compete? With a pencil? No. You compete with a bottle of wine because it's a gift business. So it's also not obvious for us, but we compete with these ideas being created in the big pharma. If it's you have to be aware of a very interesting syndrome. And the syndrome is called not invented here. If something is not invented here, it's a stranger idea. And it has to be much better than our idea, so we decide to put our money into your idea rather than to our idea. And this is the way I see it. So it's a different thing. Big pharma eventually can survive if they come with good ideas, because some biotech, my opinion, will not survive without big pharma, because we will need only Amgen and Biogen who are able to develop global assets and competencies to launch the product and register the product in multiple markets in 1 year. If you think about it, you need structures in 150 markets, not in 6 or 60.
But how can it, you know, still, how can it be then that a small company of 30 people can compete with Novartis with 100,000 people?
You know, you know, it's what I hear continuously is application of the idea. Sure, small biotech is not able to do the full clinical development because that costs a lot of money, and we are not able to do so. But it's about the originator and the original idea. We talk about innovation, right? We don't, and the reason that big pharma is at the bios at JP Morgan is because they want to buy in those results.
But this is not because they don't have their ideas. They look for better ideas, and they want to make sure that the ideas that are in this room do not get into the hands of the competitors.
Sure, but if you now have a research team of like a few hundred people, how is it possible that small biotech with no resources, no money, no people can compete with them? You know, the reason is because big pharma wants to do everything. And if you start to do everything, you don't have focus anymore. And this is the big difference between a small company and those major companies. This is why they are on bio. This is why they are on JP Morgan, to buy in those programs.
Yeah, that's what I said about the brilliance of the people and the ideas that pop up in the brains of wonderful people that we have in this room, and then sometimes consider themselves to be too good to work for big pharma. That's why they are not sitting in big pharma, but they are sitting in our room today.
I thought that this question was not provoking Mateusz, so rather I was sure that we will agree. However, there is a discussion.
That's the point about the tough questions.
I thought that it is obvious for everyone that we cannot say that I prefer left eye than the right eye, because both are necessary for us. We need hand and we need leg. That's why we need the small companies, we need medium companies and the big pharma companies, because usually biotechs, small biotechs, are places where we can work flexibly. We can work on the ideas and can do it, I think sometimes can do it faster than in the big pharma, because of the procedures, because of the regulations. So there is a place for small companies. Of course, small companies cannot do anything, everything. They need help. For example, when we are going to the preclinical studies, if you are a small biotech, you don't have usually money to hire people that are expert in, I don't know, preclinical toxicology and this kind of tests, and they have knowledge how to prepare the molecule to then to enter to the, in the future, enter to the market. But first, find a partner that will be able to develop it further. So there is a place for medium companies or big pharma. When you go to big pharma, usually you hear yeah, that's a nice molecule, good results, but come to us after the second phase, after the proof of concept on people, or maybe after first phase at least. So there is a place for medium companies here that are able to take the risk, but they can in the future sell the molecule, the project to the big pharma companies that will be able, as we said, we are thinking about molecules that have to be innovative in the global perspective. So we have to find a company that will be able to sell this globally. That's why I think we are this ecosystem, all these companies that these companies are necessary to find the new drugs. Thanks.
And I think this is, yeah, Michał, you said very obvious things. We need small companies, medium, CDMO, big pharma companies. You know, even from our perspective, most of our partners, our customers, that are biotech, small, medium companies. And we try to help them with their preclinical development, process development, whatever it is, of their programs. But from the other hand, we also use the technology that is that was discovered in biotech startup, and we use it in our platform technology. For example, I don't know, advanced capping system, new ionizable lipids, artificial intelligence, and all that stuff. So it shows how this ecosystem is complicated. It's not like we can work, you know, alone without anyone else. It's very complicated ecosystem, and when we try to collaborate, then we can really make something that could be game changer. It could be globally the best in the class.
Yeah, exactly. It's also from my perspective as one of the EAC ambassadors, but I was also building several biotech and medtech companies, is clearly to say that if you think that the biotech sector is slow in terms of, you know, it takes so many years to get through preclinical, clinical, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, regulatory approvals, pre-submissions, fast tracks, whatever it's called, because there's procedures, like hundreds of them, still the innovation, even on the big pharma side, is running as quickly as hell. It's really very fast. We just don't see it on a daily basis, especially from the big pharma side, because they don't need to publish. They very often work in stealth mode until it's, let's say, phase 1 results, poster presentation at some key conference. That's the day when the whole world sees, oh, they did it, but it's already phase 1 results, or often even phase 2 results. So it's really very fast. So yeah, I had once a very interesting discussion with one of the senior vice president of Amgen, and she told me one thing: you are bloody fast, guys. I mean, the startup environment, but you have to approve, and you have to agree, and you have to understand that we are very slow. And if you do not match with this speed we have, you will just fail talking to us. So, so we just have to always remember that that the speed of innovation is very high in the biotech sector. But in some places, the speed is a little bit different one than what we have. I think there are two things which are important from the crowd and from you guys. Is the word partnering. It's the words how to partner in this complex matrix environment. So if you could also tell me a little bit, and then tell the audience a little bit about this role of CROs, CDMOs, and the service providers and partners, matching and delivering all of those competences in this very much complex world. From your perspective, how important it is for the biotech sector, both from startup environment, very often is lacking all of those competences, very often has money but has no people to do it, because it's very often very small, narrow competence for a couple of months only needed, and it's difficult to get some high-profile individual to run some part of toxicology, preclinical, or some kind of CMC processes. So from your perspective, how important is this part of all those CDMOs, CROs, and all the service providers from your perspective in this whole matrix?
You know, so I will also start from the story. Everybody remember the COVID and the COVID vaccine race. Most people, when they think about, for example, Pfizer, BioNTech, COVID, they think about those two companies. We had pleasure to also talk with other companies who were involved in this process. And you know why it was so fast? Because they collaborate very closely together. We had talk with the company that provide the first batches for the clinical trials. They produced the first batches of COVID vaccines for the clinical trials. And they told us that, you know, it was like amazing because we all together can talk and manage all this process. So they told me, you know, Pfizer was excellent because they can build the clinical facility in every part of the world very fast. BioNTech got brilliant idea to use mRNA. They used lipids from aqueducts that were previously tested for some other disease. The Pauline from Vienna produced these clinical batches very fast. They were like on phone and they talked one to each other. And please release the batch because we had next day the study on humans. And it shows how different, knowledge, different competence from the different area there are who fill whole of the gap, and they deliver at the end the project. So, you know, my boss is always saying that there is something that is very important, like extracellular matrix. So there is an idea, but all around there needs to be extracellular matrix, and you need to fill with other competence. You can have a great idea, but you need to focus on that. And it's nice to have a partner that you can outsource some other activities, like, I don't know, process development, some preclinical study related with toxicology, I don't know, analytical development. And this is also the beauty of this business, because we need each other. And if we start collaborating, if we start, this partnering, so then we can really fast deliver the project to the success at the end.
Yeah, this is obvious. I think that partnering is necessary to obtain success. Maybe from my perspective, when we are thinking about partnering, we need to find the best, maybe not the best, but enough good partner to our needs. Because sometimes, for example, when we are going to the big pharma, which is of course necessary, as I said, but you are at the early stage, they don't want your molecule. However, when you fit to the company that needs exactly that what you want, you can sometimes license the molecule at even early stage. We have got an example that one of our molecules was licensed even before the toxicology studies. So this, I think it's unusual situation. However, we fit to the need of that company that wanted that kind of molecule. So looking for the partners, it's good to do a good research. Talking about partnership, for example, with CMO companies. Again, from my experience, when we started 2006, the biotech, not biotechnology, let's say Nadamed, when we worked with the first fermenters in our company, we thought we don't know how to do it at the higher level. We need to go to the CMO. So first of all, let's go to the CMO, the big CMO that has a big knowledge, big experience. They will tell us how to do it correctly. And then we've heard, it's your process. You know the process, the best knowledge you've got about this process. Of course, we can improve it, but you know it the best. And finally, of course, they try to optimize the process. However, production was in the system that they possess in their system, but more or less was the same, talking about upstream, and regarding the downstream, it was exactly as we developed it in the lab. So I wanted to say that first of all, it's worth to do a research and find a partner that fits to your need, or your asset fits to their need, and then believe in yourself and in your in that what you can do, because sometimes you think that there will be a magician who will propose you the clue one best way, but that what you did can be enough.
David?
Maybe I can share our perspective, how we understand partnership between the CDMO like us and the biotechs. I think it's like walking together arm by arm. It's understanding what's the ultimate goals of the biotechs. It's sharing them, and it's being prepared together to work for the success and being prepared for the failure. What I mean, it's when we receive the, let's say, usually it's a single baby, or the single asset of the biotech. It's amazing that whole company is focused, and by this comment I refer to what Louis said a moment ago. I think the strong advantage of the biotechs is their focus. Yeah, opposite to big pharmas, which they are diversified to various modalities, various assets. But then the partnership is way beyond supplying the white powder in the barrel and with the COA. It's navigating, especially for small companies, they which have scarce resources and a limited understanding of let's say regulatory pathways, trials to prepare the CMC for the IND or a new drug application. Their level of understanding of, let's say, the GMP manufacturing, the GMP environment, control strategy, it's something that we feel responsible to guide them, to help them, to support them. They are coming with their molecule, their process. From that moment, it's our process. Of course, by legal standpoint, it's purely their IP, yeah, absolutely, and respect that. But we feel responsible to raise a flag when we see the risk, when the medicinal chemistry cannot be scaled up. Because if we fail with the GMP campaign, finally they will not supply the drug to the patients, correct? And their failure is our failure. So it's that way of intimacy. It's also flexibility. While we are coming from originally a generic company with a robust, solid quality system in a highly regulated environment, we strive to, adjust our business processes, ways of working, to follow the pace and needs of biotech companies. And you may believe me, there are different ones. There are people who doesn't even know what they want. Of course, they have an idea and they want to go to the clinic, but how to get there? They really don't no idea. And this is where we are. This is where we are helping them. Yeah.
It's a very complex world. So we all who innovate in the biotech sector, we have to know that this is the most regulated market on the planet. The main reason is that there is a patient at the end of the day who can live or die. So we have to always remember this is why all those regulations are coming from. So
what I found from this panel, and it was already also said in the panel, you are confirming each other. So everything is important. The startup is important, the SME, big pharma is important, CDMO, everything. But we already knew that. You are on a panel on the stage there to get a position. So I'm interested to hear your position, not tell, everything is important. That's something that we already knew.
That's why I think, to be fair to our chairman, his question was a framework which has generated a lot of interesting points, I hope. The partnering that we do, obviously, at Clairfield International is partnering the early stage firms with the big pharma and big device firms, right? So it's a little different to the partnering with the CDMOs, CDAs, which is very important, right? And let me just say a few things about that partnering set. We are approached by numerous people of the kind that were represented in this room who have, a brilliant idea, a brilliant technology, either a brilliant molecule for a drug or a brilliant device, or somewhere in between in that space. And they are very puzzled that this isn't going to necessarily end up as a drug in the catalogue of a big firm. And there are two reasons. One, which is, I'll say a little bit in jest, is the idea may not be quite as unique as one thinks, right? People come and put, sometimes literally on the desk in front of me, a gadget or a diagram of their invention, their molecule, whatever, and they tell a story. And roughly, the gist of the story, though they don't use those words, is that the history of humanity is marked by 3 giant steps: fire, the wheel, and this thing in front of me. And of course, there are many, many, many such good ideas, but we certainly have to filter the ideas. And let's say a lot of them get through the filter, they are very, very good. But the problem is this, that there is then a funnel that you have to get through, which is from the thousands and thousands of ideas to the much smaller number of things which get taken up by the drug companies and then go to the market. And unfortunately, the limiting factor is not the ideas. It's because there are many, many, many such ideas. It's the relatively small number of drugs that can get authorized and marketed each year through the global system. Because each of them will take hundreds of millions or maybe $1 billion to put into the market, right? And so only by the huge company at the end, or if it's devices, the number of devices that can be in the catalogues of the distributors that supply the hospitals and of the companies that make it. And you've got to somehow get your thing into that funnel, through that funnel. And of course, we help where we can. I mean, we've done it many, many times before. And there are obvious things. You've got to have the right technology, you have to have the right IP. Then if it's a drug, you've got to have the right early trial results, you have to have the right operating partners, everything. But there's a lot of detail. And unfortunately, it is a bottleneck. And that's the bottleneck that many companies in this room will have to fight.
So that leads us to one of the most important questions probably for everyone in this room when it comes to startup development, is the M&A process. So that's the cherry on the cake. So once we get there, we want to sell it very often for this ambitious $1 billion plus transaction. So how is this M&A processes, which are a key component and a very much integral part of the biotech ecosystem and this biotech matrix, how do you think that influence, how the M&A processes influence today's biotech sector? Are they still so important, and how to get there to make this transaction happen? Because that's the end of the day, especially in a small startup environment when there is plenty of financial investors behind who want to exit sooner or later, that way or another, through IPO or through this kind of transaction with the potential full acquisition of this asset or company. Very often a company is just 1 or 2 assets. So how do you think from this M&A perspective and this M&A processes, is there any standard pathway for every startup to follow, or how to get to this transaction point and how to make money out of this tens of years of hard work for biotech startups?
Well, I'll only say a few words because I've already spoken a little bit about this. I want some of the others, but obviously there is a relatively standard pathway. It's to do the lab development, the animal studies, then the early stage, the tox, and then the first phase and the second phase. That's if it's a drug. If it's a device, you get the device, patent the device. You've got the IP issues on the drug side as well, of course. But IP is fantastically important. Without solid IP and plenty of life left on the patent and so on, it won't get through that funnel. So IP is very important. In the case of the drugs, then the quality of the data as they come out. And in the case of the devices, you're also going to have to demonstrate market traction. Those initial sales show that, because there it's a much shorter pathway. There isn't 3 phases and 12 years of studies. It's much curtailed. But the bad news is that you have to be further along that path. It's relatively difficult to sell raw technology as in the device space. You usually have to sell the beginnings of a business. But there are exceptions. The $100 million plus from Biorad for Curiosity Diagnostics here in Poland, and that was just the technology and pure IP sales. So and they hadn't started approaching the market. So they're fairly standard paths, plenty of exceptions. But it'd be interesting to hear the perspective of some of the the buyer side, the buying pharma company.
Łukasz, from your side.
Science is one, IP is two, unmet medical need is three. That includes the competition today, but also years ahead when our technology can be introduced into the marketplace. And then there is a team of people who have to work on it. So these are the four things. If you miss on any of those, you become much less valuable. And I will refer to the value concept. The perceived benefits from whoever buys it, and then we need to do the selling job. If perceived benefit is lower than the price that we ask, they will not buy. We can manage the perceived benefit by properly introducing and running and conducting our work. And yesterday I've heard a story about the geese. I think the geese was a good story, although I have to excuse myself. I think it was totally wrongly interpreted, because the story, to be short, is that they built all those windmills in Holland, and then the geese go and they die because they hit those windmills. And now with years, we know that these windmills are totally ineffective, and then unthoughtful action by human beings causes suffering of the innocent creatures. And if we do not take a thoughtful way on our companies, the patients will suffer. So the story is great, but I take something totally different from it. So this is simple, and I think our job is to simplify. That's why whatever you do, think about it. Science is good, IP is the second. There must be a need in the marketplace, and then there must be people who will be able to sell the idea to whomever we want it to sell. And then we have people like Clairfield with fantastic understanding of the needs of the other side, so they can help us to navigate through the process. And it's vitally important, because I don't believe the IPO is the exit. I think the IPO, you don't, and yesterday on the panel it was said that if people believe the IPO is the way for the owners or the founders to make the money, I think this is a misperception. IPO is for us to generate the money, and always the investors will ask, so when is the exit, and how much how much money will we make? For today, for BioResearch Pharma, I cannot legitimately answer this question, because we don't know. We know what is the potential of the marketplace, we know it, because the data is available, we can calculate, we understand the competition. But can I promise anybody that 3 years down the road I will go and sell the asset for $500 million? I cannot. And then that makes, unfortunately, the biotech projects so difficult to attract investors, because this is the most important question they ask. They want to understand. And unfortunately, in this business, thanks God, it's not $1 billion. It doesn't need to be 17 years. It doesn't need to be probability of success at the level of 0.01%, because there are strategies to do it better. And in BioResearch Pharma, we focus on repurposing, so we have the toxicology and safety behind us. We focus on dermatology, which is the highest probability of technological and regulatory success, and the topical drugs. So you can do it. But the sexiest is the monoclonal antibody that will stop God knows what, and God knows how, and God knows when. And but I appreciate that, because that's really sexy. So that will be my short answer.
Yeah, and someone paid billions for this monoclonal antibodies, so it is sometimes a dream of every founder to get paid so much by by someone. So yeah, as you all said, these M&A processes are very essential, are very complex. So it's always good to have someone behind you, M&A advisory firm or someone internally in a business development team. I think that's what really leads and increase all of us chances to make it successful.
Yes, and the one last thing you need access to these firms. Help yourselves. Go to conferences, global conferences. You must. These firms. You need access to two groups of people in those firms if you're going to sell your project, right? You need access to the scientists, so they're excited about your science and technology. And then you need access to the executives, the M&A executives who get. Now, the M&A, access to the M&A executives and that's our job as Clairfield, right? You'll want advisors, obviously, global advisors when you finally come to this, and there are companies like ours. But it's much, much better, our job is much, much better if the scientists have already heard about your project and they're talking about it and they're reading your publications, very important. But also just personally go, and so they've already, yes, I remember, those very bright people I met in San Diego or in Düsseldorf or wherever the conference was. So access, and you start that early.
Yeah, I think this started this early. It's one of the key components. So from my experience, as an example, we went into the first discussion at a large conference when the product was still very, very early preclinical. So once you are on the radar of anyone, then then you can just follow up. You can just go and present some of the preclinical studies. Sometimes it's not a poster presentation because it doesn't get approved. Then you have some first phase 1 studies. This potentially can be approved as a poster presentation at some key conference. Then you get on the radar of the big guys, and as Charles said, scientists. Those are the first group which is making all of those things happen. They are somehow, we call them internal agents at these big corporates. They very often go on a daily basis to the boss and say, hey, we've seen it and it's bloody interesting. Let's do something with that. So I think it's really, really, really important. So as you can see, this M&A process at the end of the day is bloody important, especially if it's so much capital need market. So we need cash at the end of the day for those biotechs. If this cash comes from the financial investors, they do not invest very often because they love you. They do not invest because you are nice or handsome or beautiful or whatever. They invest because they want to make money. That's very obvious. So my experience with hundreds of investors and hundreds of funding rounds is 80% of those, when they sign the investment agreement, they look for the exit. So they always ask this question, when and how can I exit? It's not, of course, for the co-founders exiting through the IPO, because it's lockups and all of this, and the stock markets react very dramatically when founder is selling the shares. But the financial investors, especially the early stage financial investors, they have to get the opportunity to exit so they can reinvest the money they made into the next biotech companies. And the new investors, very often professional, large private equities or large investment caps, they can jump in, replace early stage investors, just to make the whole move. The pieces are moving. So I think that the last question to you guys is if you could just summarize in a couple of words from your perspective, what is this matrix of biotech? What is the one key component you would see from your perspective is the most important one? Just answering also the one of the questions from the audience is really, what is this, as I call it, KFC juice in this chicken?
So, from my perspective, I think that it could be some way answer on your question. The most important is great idea. Whatever it comes from, startup, big pharma, this is very important. Second is collaboration. Because, and if I'm talking about collaboration, I'm also talking about choosing correct partners. Also, Michał talked about it during your development of your product. Because, we have, for example, sometimes customers who came to us and he asked us, guys, I would like to be in the clinical trials in next 6 months. and ask them, do you have this, and this? No, I should have this. Yes, you should have this. Okay, so I will not be in the clinical trials, and at the end, I will not have another money for another milestone. So this is important to talk with someone who have experience and can help you to deliver those programs to some specific point that you should have to deliver. So great idea and collaboration. I believe this is something that is very, very important.
It's hard to disagree. Rather, I think we agree with that. That's brilliant idea. It doesn't matter where it is. However, there are various ways to finally monetize it, to obtain the money from that. You can go, I don't know, from the group at the academia. You can go to the spin-off. You can go through the SPV or that kind of companies. You can look for investor. There are various ways, really. So the idea is the most important thing in this. But there are a lot of good ideas that never are a final track. So the way that you are going through to this drag is also very important. So it is worth to find people that have an experience. Of course, I remember from my perspective, there were situations when I was not a young manager, let's say, and I negotiated with the big company that we want to use your expression system. We had to do the transfer from one CMO to another. We want to use your expression system. What could be the price? They said the number X. I said, I discussed with my management board. They told me, no, you cannot give so many money. You have to decrease it. Okay, I said, let's decrease it. And they said to me, this company, we can give you for X minus, let's say 10, and I wanted X minus 50, for example. I was sure they will want to, let's say, earn something, then not earn anything. They decided, no, if you will give us X minus 10, we will, you could use it as string. If not, you won't. And I was unexperienced. I didn't know that. I thought that it's like buying a car or something like that. But in one situation, they decided, we don't even want to allow you to use it because we think it's definitely more valuable. So as an unexperienced manager, I let's say, made a mistake. With person who has an experience in that kind of situation, we could go another way. So people, of course, the next, let's say, asset in this idea, people, and the exact road of going to the drug.
I think it's foremost the patient at the end. It's not only idea, because we're not throwing out ideas just to show them to the world. We think about, we are trying to understand, I don't know, a certain mutation in the gene, try to find the application, you know, finally knowing that there are people suffering because of the disease. And this has also inspired me when biotech leaders are coming to our facility. They come to speak about business, negotiate contract, or, you know, make a technical quality due diligence, but they open their presentation and they start speaking about the patients they are going to, let's say, dose in a couple of months with a drug substance that we are going to produce if we will be selected. This is highly motivating us. I think and this is the engine for our society. And I think we are not naive. We are not, you know, from time to time we are, let's say, focused on certain discovery that we think will, okay, some people think that will cure every kind of cancer forever and it will disappear. That's not the case. But we need to remember, it's not only idea, it's not only making money, it's not only business. That we are a people, and we're doing this for the others. Thank you.
Łukasz, one thing from your perspective as a mix of physician, pharma.
It's very general and probably generic. In my life, I know that it's very difficult sometimes to remember why are we doing things. So just remember why are you doing, what's your objective, huh? Because then you can easily confuse the milestones with the objective. The milestone is a short term, but why are you doing this is very important. So what is the mission? And in this biotech company and the pharma business, the mission is only accomplished when the patients actually applies our drug and gets better. Everything else is a route. So let's not confuse it. But a major objective for biotech company is to find a partner that will be a key enabler for us to commercialize and deliver, have a chance to deliver our idea, our solution, the benefits of the product that we are dreaming of to the patients, because we know we will not do it. That's why everything we do already today, we have to do with a thought in our mind how our potential partner will look at it. And if there is a simple preclinical phototoxicity test that we have to perform because EMA requires this to be a part of your preclinical package, make sure you do it in a reliable laboratory that will recognize your results, because you can do it very nicely and then go to your partner and say, yeah, but we don't trust these results. And then this will put you back months or years potentially in your development process, and then the patients will suffer because of your lack of thoughtfulness on your way to develop the product. So be responsible and think about it. How will it fit into your major step, which is the partnering that will be a key enabler and is a holy grail for biotech and the key driver for the perception of investors and the availability of funding and everything else. Unfortunately, until today, there is not a single product that was, let's say, of Polish origin. So Poland is not, let's be open about it, is not existing on the global map of the pharmaceutical innovation. 2025 did not happen.
Not yet.
Let's make it happen, but it's all in our hands. You know, there are hundreds of deals, and they are made by people, and they are not better people than us.
Yeah, Charles.
And one last thing, this may sound trivial. What's your cash flow and your money? Most of the early stage projects that don't make it fail not because their science was any worse than the ones that made it, but because the backers ran out of money, the project ran out of money. So think, you work 4 days a week on the science and the trials and everything, and then 1 day a week on the money aspect. Your backers, your funders, your M&A processes and so on. Just keep an eye on that.
Yeah. And from my perspective, I mean, one of the most important things in this biotech matrix is a team. It's a team of people who is becoming, of course, idea is great and it's very important. We know the mRNA story. It was a great idea already 20 years ago, but it popped up only a couple of years ago. And it took them 20 years to get to the point when the opportunity arose. We don't judge how it happened, but it arose. So they used this opportunity, and this collaboration between Biotech and Pfizer was a great example how you can collaborate, how you can partner, and how you can quickly build a huge production supply chain and deliver all over the world the COVID vaccines. But I think team of people. So from my experience, many projects they fail because of money. That's especially the early stage projects, they fail because of money, because there is too much focus on science, and it's like repeat, test. You cannot test and repeat for the next 5 years, because you will get run of money in 12 months from now. So the team is a very kind of multifunctional, multidisciplinary team of people, science, tech, but also business, regulatory, partnering. So the people who know people, that's why this event is all about. So people can meet people, and can hear about Polpharma API, can listen about CDMOs, how important they are. So I think the people in your team, in your biotech startup or biotech mid-sized company, I think it's a crucial thing to have as many competence in the team as possible. So not only science, but also some business development people, some corporate finance, corporate governance, because the longer way you go, the more important corporate finance, corporate governance will become. And once you are in phase one, you cannot change the science anymore, because it's design freeze, you cannot change anything because it's already phase one. Then the corporate stuff will become the most important, the business development will become the most important part of your business. Because you will need to raise hell of money, you will need to be very much trustful in front of your investors. So I think the team at the end of the day is also very, very important. So any questions from the audience? But by the way, thank you very much for interacting and jumping in.
Sadly, I'm very glad that I was provocative, and I understand that. But I see some development in the panel, because at the last phase, everybody made a choice, and I think that's really what we need. So thank you for that.
Sadly, we really don't have any more time.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mateusz. Thank you, gentlemen.